Now, in my last video, I talked about the 3 remaining conditions in the current deregulated sexual marketplace. Number 1, both people had to actually desire one another. Number 2, both people, or all participants in the sexual encounter, no matter how many they were, they all had to be on the same side of the age of consent. That is, if 2 or more people are going to have sex, they are either above the age of 16 or 18 or below the age of 16 or 18. There cannot be any kind of cross-pollination, if you will. And the third issue, the third limitation in our current deregulated sexual marketplace is that there has to be consent of the people participating. Now, this is of course crucial because you cannot have sex with somebody who does not consent to sex. That would be rape. Yeah? If one or more of the participants in a sexual encounter does not consent to the sexual activity, this is commonly understood as rape. But of course, consent can be kind of fluid, okay? Because a lot of times what one person considers consent, the other person considers resistance. Yeah? For instance, it could be that a woman is saying no, 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 which sounds like they are not consenting, and yet at the same time they are actively taking off the clothes of the guy that they want to fuck, okay? And so it can get messy, very easily get messy. And in point of fact, and here's the rub and point of this video, it can be that the 2 or more people in the sexual encounter, at the time that they are having sexual intercourse, consent to the sexual encounter, but then at a later date decide that there was no consent. In other words, and this is the really dangerous thing, consent is becoming fluid, changeable. It can change over time. And this is potentially very, very dangerous, especially for men. So you had sex with a girl last night, right? Yeah, you had sex and she enjoyed it, you enjoyed it, all good. And she went home or you went home or wherever, right? And, you know, a few days pass, a week or 2, and then all of a sudden you get this knock on the door from the cops and they're coming to arrest you because you raped her. And you're like, what the fuck? I didn't rape her. We had a great old time. Hi, old time. And she came twice and I came once too and all good. The cops are saying, no, 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 no. She gave us a declaration, a statement that she did not give her consent at the time of the sexual encounter. How you like them apples, motherfucker? Huh? Yeah. And you say that this isn't possible. Fuck you. It happens all the fucking time. Yeah. It happens all the time that a woman can change her mind later. And she can say that all kinds of things. And she can say that she was drunk at the time or stoned or whatever and therefore impaired, and therefore the consent that she gave at the time was not actual consent because she was impaired, and therefore the sexual encounter was rape. Yeah, and you can be charged with rape. Yeah, you see? What happens insofar as consent is concerned nowadays is that the consent at the time given is not fixed. She might have given consent at the time of the sexual encounter, but that consent can change over time, okay? And because there is no evidence, there's just your word and her word, well, her word is going to be counted more than yours, okay? And so if at a later date, after the sexual encounter, she decides that what occurred was not consensual sex, therefore automatically becomes rape, because, as we discussed, as I said, a sexual encounter that is not consensual is, in essence, rape, forced sex. And so you can be charged with rape, and you potentially can go to jail because of this. And so you have to guard against it. You have to understand what's going on. What's going on is that absence of any kind of evidence, right? A woman's word is going to be taken over yours. Whatever you say doesn't mean shit. Not in a practical sense. And so you have to protect yourself. You have to walk around with your eyes wide open and your mouth firmly shut and understand the environment that you are in. You are in an environment, a sexual environment of the sexual marketplace, where consent is changeable after the fact. And therefore, what you have to do is after every sexual encounter You have to create the proof that will protect you if and when the woman you are with decides to change her mind. Now, what do I mean when I say that you have to create the proof? Do I mean that you have to manufacture evidence? No, of course not. Okay, you don't fucking manufacture evidence, because no matter how clever you fucking are, right, you'll always get caught, okay? Lies, they always out. So you never lie. No, what you do is very simple. What you do is that after the sexual encounter, you see to it that she communicates to you via email or text or whatever the fuck, that she gave her consent at the time of the sexual encounter, and that immediately after, she reiterates that consent. But what do I mean in a practical sense? Oh, very simple. So you fucked a girl last night, right? Okay, so today, this morning, yeah, you text her. And you text her and you say to her, I had a great time. I hope you also had a great time. Period. Did you come good? Question mark. And what's she going to say to that? She'll probably answer it. And in her answer will be the tacit admission that at the time of the sexual encounter, she gave her consent. You see what I'm driving at? Every communication that you have with her after the sexual encounter, you got to make sure that it's on the record. It's not a telephone call, right, or a cell phone call, but rather it's a text message. Or if it's a call, that you record the fucking call, right? You got to make sure that you have hard evidence whereby after the sexual encounter, she reiterates the fact that at the time of the sexual encounter, she gave her consent. This is key. Because with all this Me Too bullshit, you know what's going on, basically? Feminism is taking a step backward for women, see? Because a woman before, when she agreed to have sex, her consent was accepted and acknowledged, and it was taken seriously, and she couldn't change her mind later. But feminism has opened the door so that women can later change their minds, okay? And in point of fact, feminism has, in order to allow more women to potentially accuse their sexual partners of rape or sexual assault or whatever the fuck, right? They have made the consent at the time of the encounter more malleable. And in order to do that, what they have to do, the logical move that they have to make, is to say that basically women, if they give their consent at the time, it's not a sure thing. In order to be able to change their minds later, women are basically like children at the time of the sexual encounter. They have to be treated like children, like maybe yes, maybe no. And the only way to solidify the consent that they gave at the time of the encounter is for evidence to emerge immediately after, when she's not sexually aroused or perhaps has been drinking or taking drugs like she did at the time of the sexual encounter. You know, after the fact, when she's stone cold sober and not in the heat of the moment, right, she has to reiterate the consent that she gave. That's the only thing that will save you. And that's the evidence that you have to get, the proof that you need to get, that you need to create. Because you have to create it now, you see? You have to create the evidence by contacting her via text messages or calling her up and recording the call. You have to create this evidence to shore up the fact that she had given you consent at the time of the sexual encounter. Now, I mean, think about it. Isn't this fucking pathetic? Fuck yeah, it's pathetic. Because it basically means that women are fucking children. Women are childlike in their in the fact that they live in the heat of the moment. Yeah, that's what's basically being implied here. That in the heat of the moment, a woman is basically childlike. In the heat of the moment, in the heat of the sexual encounter, a woman cannot really give consent. See, that's what's basically going on, okay? It's undermining the notion that as an adult, the woman at the time of the sexual encounter can set aside her sexual excitement, can set aside the fact that she might be a bit tipsy from 2 or 3 drinks, can set aside the fact that she might be a bit stoned because of the ecstasy tablet she took or whatever, and decide forthrightly to give consent or to not give consent, right? The current environment is stripping away this notion that a woman can give consent. It's stripping it away the same way that children i.e. those below the age of consent, are understood to not be able to give consent because they are immature, too immature to recognize whether having sex with, say, a 30-year-old man is acceptable or not, or possible or not. The notion is, legally, is that children under the age of consent cannot have sex with an adult because they do not have the wherewithal to properly give consent. And so now women are being treated the same way, i.e. as if they are children. So you have to protect yourself, simple as that, by creating this proof. Creating the proof that she gave her consent, and more to the point, creating proof that after the fact, she was reiterating her consent by way of these text messages or emails or recorded conversations or whatever the fuck. And so as she reiterates the consent that she gave, later, if and when she decides that no, the sexual encounter was actually rape, you'll have these little nuggets of proof that will make it much harder for her at a later time to claim that you raped her. You see? You see how fucked up the whole situation is? Huh? Yeah, it is fucked up. Yeah? And women have nobody but feminism to blame for this situation. Because now, me, as a man, I look at women and recognize the fact that their consent is malleable, and I look down on them, quite frankly. Yeah, I think that they're pathetic. I can't take them seriously. And so when a woman comes to me and says whatever about whatever, it doesn't matter what she's talking about, I am not going to take her seriously. Because if she is a woman who has not argued virulently against this notion of malleable consent, which is essentially what is going on, then she's not a woman that I can take seriously. Because, you know, what she says, well, maybe she means it, maybe she doesn't. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Because it's malleable. Fuck that, I'm not going to respect such a woman. I'm not going to take her seriously. Yeah? And this is detrimental to women. Because you think that I'm the only guy who thinks this way? You think I'm the only man who looks at women today and cannot take them seriously? I'm not. I'm not the only one. This is the unintended consequence of feminists. Feminists wanted women to have the ability to withdraw consent after the fact, because that's what's really going on here, okay? They gave consent, had sex, and then later they're like, you know, I'm thinking better of it. No, I withdraw consent. Rape! And so guys like me, sensible guys, the majority of guys, we look at women and we look at them with contempt. We can't take them seriously, yeah? We have a need for them because we need to fuck. We need to have children. But as a sex, we don't take them seriously. Individually, yeah, sure. There are a lot of women that I respect enormously. There are a lot of women whom not only do I respect enormously, I respect them more than I respect most men that I know, okay? Yeah, and I can name half a dozen right now. I can name a couple of dozen right now of women who I think are just fucking aces, right? Yeah, but the individual is not the group. Insofar as the group of women, the sex, I think they're pathetic because they have allowed themselves as a group to have this malleable consent, which is a fucking lethal weapon to any man. And so therefore, that's why I made this video. See, men, you have to be prepared. And it doesn't matter how well you know the girl, by the way. No. She can be a girl that you've known all your life. You can be fucking married to her, okay? No. This rule, yeah, of this issue of malleable consent and how you have to create proof after the fact so as to protect yourself into the future when, if and when she withdraws her consent, it doesn't matter how well you know this girl. No exceptions. Every single girl you have sex with, you make sure that you get this proof. You make sure that you have this proof because, see, it's insurance. And what's the nature of insurance? It's a small cost or inconvenience, but enormous protection. You just have to do a few little things to ensure that nothing horrifying and catastrophic happens to you. So be smart and get insurance.